refer to myself as a citizen of the world. I don't know where I'm from because some of the places that are in my blood I've never been to. So I'm even allowed to say I'm from there? I've traveled to more than 40 countries, and this means I've had to introduce myself to a fair number of people. And there's always one question that is impossible to avoid. Where are you from? This question has raised many different answers, and for everyone it has a different meaning. For some people, it could mean, what's your ethnicities? And for others, it could be, where do you feel is home? However, for me, the question resulted in a long, awkward pause, and me eventually saying that I'm from everywhere, or saying that I'm from London. But that's not what they want to hear, because I don't look like a stereotypical London city girl. So if I say I'm from London, the person proceeds to expand on the question and say, no, where are you really from? This now turns into a whole different answer, which requires a different and more complicated answer, and goes into what is your ethnicity. For me, this is also long and hard to answer. So I say my mother is from Pakistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Denmark, but grew up in Hong Kong, and my father is from Taiwan. After I say this, I either get a response like, wow, you're so exotic, or as one of my good friends once referred to me as a mutt. Now I can make things even more complicated and tell people that I can speak French and that I took a year off school to travel around China. And I've lived in London, France, Singapore, Monaco, and now Hawaii. But then that isn't answering the question, where are you from anymore? It becomes tiring constantly having to answer the same question, so over the years I've decided to have fun with it. I can tell people I'm from the Philippines or I'm from Hawaii, and they won't question anything, because I have a slightly darker skin tone. But then they detect my accent, and it just gets difficult again. Sure, if you consider yourself 100% from a country, then the question where you're from is a no-brainer, and you can swiftly move on to other topics. But if you aren't or don't consider yourself 100% from a country, then for you it can be a struggle to answer. I conducted a survey on how many people could truly answer the question, where are you from, and asked as many people as I could from my school and my other friends back home. Based on the answer that I received, I categorized the individuals into one of two groups, hesitant and clear answer. The people who would ask, what do you mean, or do you mean where my parents are from, were put in the category hesitant, and the people who immediately answered and didn't change their answer were put into the clear answer category. Here are my results. As you can see, the number of people who were hesitant in answering the question is far greater than the people who had a direct answer. Honestly, I think the reason the numbers differed so much was because I have grown up in a very diverse community, and I am constantly surrounded by third-cultured people. The company Momondo did a similar survey, however they went a lot further in detail. They got a handful of participants and asked them where they were from, and a lot of them had a clear answer. Then they asked them if there were any countries and nationalities that they felt like they didn't get along with. After collecting their DNA, they brought back the results to the participants, and it was shocking. The participants were so surprised because the surveyors gave them answers that they were not expecting. Some of the participants were from the places that they said they didn't get along with, and it was an eye-opening experience for them and the audience, because it goes to show that most of us simply don't know. It doesn't surprise me that most of us don't know what countries lie in our blood, because our world has changed so much and is constantly developing. There are so many people born every day, and each of them have a different story, and our world population is expanding. Where are you from is also linked with your culture. If you grew up learning specific things from one culture, then you might recognize yourself as being from there, and you can share that culture with other people, leaving them to question where they come from. You all answered a question at the door. I asked this question because I wanted to demonstrate that even in this room, migration plays a huge part in our lives. It is often said that America is a country of immigrants, and it is this historical migration that has helped increase cultural, racial, and ethnic diversity within the country. When you move from one place to another, you obviously grow as a person and take in aspects of the local culture. Similarly, with globalization and increased communication between different countries, cultural values are more easily shared across borders. Personally, I grew up in England and France, where my friends and I used to watch American TV, read American books, and listen to American music. This portrays how globalization plays out in action. We gather our cultural influences from many different places, and therefore our personal identities are blurred. I know I'm not the only one who thinks this question is daunting. I think asking where you're from is also closely related to your looks, or like I previously said, your accent. For example, if you look slightly Asian, then people typically assume that you come from Asia. However, someone who looks more Asian might not consider themselves from there and categorize themselves as British or American or any other nationality. Also, if you have an accent, then people will or can assume that you come from that specific area, but you might not be, and you might have just lived there for a while or your whole life. So I think the question, where are you from, is asked and answered to clear unwanted or ambiguous assumptions. Why do we ask this question? At the end of the day, no one should really care where we come from. Do we ask it because it has become something to say when you're meeting someone for the first time? May I propose some alternatives? Next time you meet someone, ask them how their day was. Ask them about the weather, or ask them what their favorite color is. Ask them questions they have answers to. If you're still curious about where they come from, pause and think to yourself, could I answer this question myself? Maybe the answer to this question is simply Earth. We come from Earth. Thank you.